When the wall was removed last year, a week after it was put up on International Day of People with a Disability, it was pretty devastating. It was just removed by council by mistake. It still hurts so much to think about it because it's just felt like that way that our voices are continually marginalised and that I've experienced, so many ways in which I've been dismissed, and it just felt like that all over again in such a big public way. That gave me momentum to go, we have to do this again.
What if you couldn't piss unless I said so? What if you couldn't eat unless I fed you real slow? And what if you couldn't please me without assist?
I could start by saying this morning I woke up for the first time in 9.5 months without a feeling of dread. And that's because I knew that today we were putting back this mural. This feels like 20 years in the making. I have a 20-year-old brain injury, and I couldn't work out for so long why I kept feeling shame about my brain injury, and shame about the fact I couldn't remember things, or that I couldn't read properly, or I would get overwhelmed, or that I would cry, or that I would, all the things. And I just couldn't work it out. And I'd ask people and no one else knew why I had this shame, because they had it too, but no one could answer it. And then a couple of years ago I discovered this thing called internalised ableism, and it all made sense. All of a sudden I was like, yes, I get it. And then around that time, obviously, I discovered the International Disability Pride movement, and I realised I need to be proud.
Disability pride means owning ourselves and owning our place here in the world, and that our place here in the world is just as valid as anybody else's.
We as disabled people are regularly operating, living and surviving in a deficit model, in a world that doesn't necessarily welcome us or value or reward what we bring and give to the world, but sees us often as an inconvenience, an expense, and as unimportant.
Disability pride is, like, to me anyway, actively rejecting that, like learning to be more than just okay with myself and with the, various diversities my body foists upon me, learning not to use that language and actually see myself as a whole person.
It's about celebrating the fact that I do have a disability. I'm on the spectrum. I have Asperger's syndrome. It is part of who I am. I am comfortable with it. If other people aren't comfortable with it, that's actually not my problem. It is an integral part of my personality to have the freedom to express myself in ways that are meaningful to the community, to myself.
For me, it's about working through the internalised ableism and shame that many of us have if we've grown up or acquired disabilities, and getting to a place where we can feel proud of who we are and see our disability as a valued part of who we are, and find connection with other people who have disabilities as well.
It's not so much about loving my condition, because there's parts of my condition I could do without, but it's about culture and identity and community and feeling a part of something.
I don't really like doing things by myself. I know that I'm strongest when I have my community with me. This ball isn't really altruistic. It was actually about trying to find a space for me in public to be able to be proud of who I am. So I had to bring all my friends with me. So many of my friends didn't identify as disabled. They would say, I don't want to be part of that. I know the discrimination I'll face if I identify. So that made me realise that we had to do it where we led it, and where we created it, and we had to do it in the public as well, and all do it together and give each other strength.
This mural demonstrates Larissa's incredible ability to encourage and give people confidence to come out as being disabled, and not to be ashamed, but to be proud.
People with disabilities, not only are we the most interesting people around, but we also actually are some of the most creative people, because we have to develop creativity to problem solve the things in our lives, the spaces in our lives that are inaccessible, or we have to work that out, and we often have to work it out ourselves because we don't have a lot of role models, visible role models in our society.
What would you say?
last year I contributed a piece of artwork that was, I guess, a self-portrait of me celebrating the steroids that I take every day that keep me alive. And this year's artwork was a bigger, brighter self-portrait that celebrates all the different things that I do every day that keep me alive and healthy, that are often stigmatised by society, but I see them as beautiful, wonderful things.
I talked about wheelchair and scooter use and how if someone can walk some of the time and needs the scooter and wheelchair the rest of the time, that we view that as giving up, or that it's a tragedy that we need the chair. And I think it's not the right way to look at it. It's about what's useful to you. It's actually about freedom. It's about getting out and doing more. And in no area of life other than disability do we consider the use of technology to be giving up.
Yeah, I have mental health problems, but not to be ashamed of it. You still have worth as a human being. You still can do things. And the ukulele is a symbol of that for me, because my thing is music and songwriting.
If you look at the mural, there's a lot of inclusion of kites everywhere, and that you might be going, great, it's a celebration. But for me, it actually means something a bit more. It's about that. It's about all those times that I was told, and I'm sure you've been told, just go with the flow, just stop talking so much, or just go with the flow, stop fighting. And yet I know that when we have a disability in a world that isn't accessible, we have to go against the flow. We have to fight. And the thing is with kites is that kites fly best, and they fly their highest when they fly against the wind. Not with the wind, against the wind. And that's often, I think, what we need to do, what we end up doing, and what we should be proud of is that fighting against the wind, because that's when we fly highest.
We don't need other people's pity. We don't need anybody else's charity. We don't need anyone else's sense of being better. We are all one. We are all one.
Disability rights are human rights, but often when you assert your rights or you state that you deserve a right, it's often seen as a favour. Oh, we're giving you this, you should be grateful. And that's not good enough.
I want to finish with the words of two fabulous women. Laura Hershey, who is a famous disabled activist, once wrote the words, "You get proud by practicing." And our very dear friend Stella Jane Young, who is with us constantly, had them tattooed on her arm. And she said, "The journey towards disability pride is long and hard, and you have to practice every single day."
In part, I'm creating a bit of a spectacle, but in a way that is empowering for us, where we are the performers rather than the people being objectified and viewed. We are the subjects.
It's launched. We're here.
So do me a favour, babe. Spend a day in my shoes. What if you had to be blessed by the family? What if you always had to shout with me? And what if you wilted every time it got steamy? And what if you got so fucking tired of being needy? And what if I had to chaperone you? Well, I'd say, welcome to my world. If I had to be another driver, bodyguard,